Let me tell you something that most men never learn. It's not the car you drive. It's not your six-pack. It's not even the size of your bank account. It's the words that come out of your mouth. Words are spells. And if you learn to speak like a man of purpose, confidence, and mystery, she won't just notice you. She'll be drawn to you. So here's what most guys do wrong. They chase. They over-explain. They try to prove they're good enough. But you? You're not going to do that. You're going to speak in a way that invites her in, not pushes yourself on her. Let me give you 6 powerful ways to do just that. Words trigger emotions, not logic. Speak to her heart, not her head. Most men go wrong by believing that attraction is a checklist, a logical equation they can solve. They think if they have the right career, the right physique, the right resume of accomplishments, that a woman will be convinced to love them. But women aren't convinced into love. They're moved into it. It's not about giving her reasons, it's about giving her feelings. Logic might earn respect, but emotion earns desire. The male mind often seeks clarity and linear thinking, but the feminine experience is far more fluid, intuitive, and emotional. If you want to reach her, you must learn to speak the language of her heart, not just the language of facts. A woman won't remember every word you say, but she'll remember how you said it. She'll remember the pause in your voice when you looked into her eyes and said something that made her feel beautiful, not just because of how she looks, but because of who she is. She'll remember the warmth, the curiosity, the spark. She won't recall your job title or GPA, but she will remember how you made her feel seen, safe, and wanted without condition. Because when you speak from your own emotion, when you speak with intention and depth, she senses it. And that emotional resonance is what stays with her. It's what lingers in her thoughts when you're no longer around. When a man speaks from a place of emotional awareness, it tells a woman that he is grounded, that he's not just intelligent but emotionally intelligent. That he can handle her emotions because he's not afraid of his own. That he can understand her without controlling her. That's powerful. That's rare. And it creates a kind of attraction that no material success can replicate. Emotional language isn't about being overly poetic or dramatic. It's about being real. Saying something as simple as, "I feel peaceful around you," or "You bring out a fire in me," has more weight than any compliment about her looks. Those words show her you're not just noticing her surface, you're experiencing her essence. And when a woman feels emotionally experienced, she begins to open up, to trust, to desire. Too many men hide behind small talk, humor, or over-explaining themselves, thinking that their words will convince her logically. But words used that way fall flat. They feel like noise. They don't land. Because women aren't drawn to explanations, they're drawn to vibrations, to the emotional energy behind your words. Speak with certainty. Speak with presence. Speak from your center. That's how you move her. That's how you shift her state. You become more than just a man trying to impress, you become a man who evokes something within her. And once she associates your voice with emotion, your presence with feeling, she'll want more of it. Not because you asked for it, but because you reached her in a way most men never do. You didn't try to win her head. You went straight to her heart. Phrases that show leadership and direction ignite attraction. At a deep, instinctual level, women are drawn to men who know where they're going. Not because she can't lead herself, but because there's something magnetizing about a man who moves with clarity and purpose. When you speak with direction, with authority, not arrogance, you create an emotional atmosphere of safety, confidence, and certainty. And in a world full of indecisive, passive energy, that kind of presence stands out. It doesn't take a dominating tone or controlling attitude. In fact, that backfires. Real leadership isn't about overpowering, it's about grounding. It's about being so rooted in who you are and where you're headed that others naturally feel pulled toward your orbit. When a man speaks in a way that reflects vision, decisiveness, and calm certainty, it communicates something primal: "I've got this." And that message hits a woman on a level deeper than words. When you say things like, "Let's go here," "I think you'll love it," or "I've already made a reservation for us, trust me," you're not just planning a date. You're displaying leadership. You're relieving her of the burden of always making decisions. You're telling her through your words, "You can relax around me. I've thought it through." That's attractive because leadership offers a kind of emotional security. Not the kind that cages her, but the kind that lets her drop her guard and simply be. Women often test for leadership without even realizing it. They may say, "I don't care, you choose," and watch how you respond. If you hesitate or flip the decision back to her, she might feel you're unsure. But if you confidently say, "Cool, then we'll go with this, trust me, it'll be fun," she relaxes. Because now she's in the presence of a man who doesn't wait for life to tell him what to do, he makes moves. He leads. This isn't about being forceful or dismissive. It's about being decisive, tuned in, and grounded. Even phrases like, "That's not where I'm headed, but I respect your view," or "Here's what I expect and what I won't tolerate," reflect personal direction. You're showing that your life has a structure, that you've chosen your path, and that you're not afraid to walk it, even if that means walking it alone. That kind of strength is compelling. It's emotional gravity. It communicates that you're not just reacting to the world, you're creating your world. And that's exactly what stirs attraction. When you speak with intention, she feels it. When you move with direction, she senses it. And when you lead with calm, steady energy, she's not just intrigued, she feels safe, excited, and inspired. Because deep down, every woman wants to know that the man she's with has the courage to steer his own ship. And when you show that with your words, you don't need to sell yourself, your presence already did. Certainty in your words equals certainty in your value. A man who speaks with confidence, clarity, and conviction instantly sets himself apart. Why? Because certainty communicates self-respect. It tells the world, and her, that you know who you are, what you want, and what you're not willing to settle for. And that kind of energy is magnetic. When a man speaks with doubt, with hesitation, or with a need for validation, he unknowingly lowers his perceived value. Not because he lacks potential, but because he hasn't yet claimed his identity. But when your words carry certainty, you project strength. You radiate value. You signal to her that you are a man who doesn't need to prove himself, because you've already chosen yourself. Think about it. When you say something like, "I think you're kind of pretty," versus, "There's something captivating about you, and I wanted to say it," the difference is night and day. The first is seeking approval, cushioning the blow in case of rejection. The second owns the moment, owns the words, and therefore owns the emotional space. Women pick up on this instantly. They don't consciously analyze it, it's a felt experience. Certainty in speech makes a woman feel safe, intrigued, and inspired all at once. It tells her that you don't crumble under pressure, that you're emotionally grounded, and that you're in control of yourself. This doesn't mean being arrogant or forceful. It means removing the uncertainty from your delivery. It means no more softening your words to be liked. No more backtracking or second-guessing when you say something real. It's about having a clear internal compass and trusting it. If you say, "I want to see you Friday night. Let's grab drinks," you're not just inviting her out, you're projecting the belief that your time is valuable and your presence is worth experiencing. That's powerful. That's attractive. Because women don't want to lead the emotional tone of every conversation, they want a man who can carry it with presence and direction. Certainty in your words also means you're not afraid to take up space. You don't shrink yourself to fit in. You don't try to become what you think she wants. Instead, you show up fully as yourself and let your words reflect that. If you like something, you say it. If something crosses a line, you call it out. If you have an opinion, you own it without apology. That doesn't create conflict, it creates clarity. And clarity is attractive. Most men are trying to be liked. Few are bold enough to be respected. But respect is born from certainty. When you speak with certainty, you become a man of weight. Your words matter. Your voice lands. You don't just talk, you resonate. And that's the kind of energy a woman remembers long after the conversation ends. Certainty in your voice is the echo of certainty in your soul. And once you master that, she'll feel your value, before you ever have to explain it. Curiosity-driven language makes you unforgettable. It pulls her in, engages her emotions, and creates mental loops that keep her thinking about you long after the conversation ends. Most men use language to inform, impress, or convince. But men who know how to inspire curiosity create tension, anticipation, and intrigue, three of the most powerful emotional triggers in attraction. Curiosity taps into a woman's imagination, and once her imagination is involved, she's no longer just listening, she's feeling, wondering, and emotionally investing. Instead of revealing everything up front, the man who uses curiosity plants seeds. He says just enough to spark interest, but never so much that the mystery disappears. He invites her into a moment but doesn't give her the whole story. He drops hints that there's more to him, more to discover, more to explore. This subtle dance between what is said and what is left unsaid builds psychological tension. And tension is the fuel of romantic excitement. When she can't quite figure you out, when she senses there's depth beneath your calm confidence, she naturally leans in. That's how curiosity creates emotional gravity. Imagine you say, "I had one of the strangest mornings of my life today. Remind me to tell you about it later." That single line does more than a 10-minute monologue about your day. It opens a loop in her mind. Now she's intrigued. She wants to know what happened. And the next time she thinks of you, that curiosity will resurface. You've just made yourself emotionally sticky. That's the power of curiosity-driven language, it lodges you in her memory. Or you say, "There's something about the way you carry yourself, it's familiar, but I can't quite place it." That phrase instantly does two things. It makes her curious about what you see in her, and it makes her curious about what you're feeling. You're inviting her to wonder, not just respond. You're making her experience the conversation rather than just hear the words. That's unforgettable. Curiosity also keeps attraction alive in long-term dynamics. When you speak in ways that suggest depth, layers, and evolving self-awareness, she never feels like she has you completely figured out. That doesn't mean being vague or manipulative, it means being rich in perspective, playful in delivery, and thoughtful in timing. It means revealing yourself in stages, and allowing her to unfold alongside you. When she feels there's always more to discover about you, more thoughts, more dreams, more hidden truths, she never gets bored. She stays engaged, emotionally and mentally. The men who linger in women's minds are not always the most attractive or successful. They're the ones who awaken the imagination. They use words that leave trails, not conclusions. They make her feel like there's a deeper story behind the smile, behind the glance, behind the moment. And when you speak in a way that triggers curiosity, you become more than a person, you become a mystery she wants to solve. Affirmation without neediness builds emotional gravity. It's one of the most powerful tools a man can use to deepen attraction, and yet most get it wrong. They either overdo it, constantly complimenting a woman in the hopes of winning her favor, or they withhold all praise out of fear of seeming weak. But there's a middle ground, a potent balance where your words affirm her in a way that makes her feel special without making you seem like you're trying to gain something in return. That's when affirmation becomes magnetic. That's when it starts pulling her in emotionally. A woman knows the difference between a man who sees her and a man who is trying to get her. The former speaks with sincerity, with presence, and without expectation. The latter speaks with an emotional hook, giving a compliment but silently hoping for validation back. The moment you attach a need to your praise, it loses power. It feels like a transaction. But when you affirm her with grounded confidence, she feels it deeply. Because in that moment, she's not being evaluated, she's being experienced. Telling a woman, "There's something really calming about your presence," or "You have a way of lighting up a room, and I noticed it," means something when you say it without flinching, without rushing, and without needing her to say it back. You're not giving her praise to earn favor, you're simply acknowledging what you see. That kind of affirmation is rare, and it hits different. It shows emotional maturity. It tells her you are secure enough in yourself to express appreciation without needing approval. That security creates a gravitational pull. When a man can give without needing to receive, it communicates strength. It says, I see value in you, and I'm confident enough in my own value that I don't need anything back. That creates safety, trust, and deep emotional impact. Because affirmation isn't just about saying nice things. It's about how you say them, how rooted you are when you speak. A grounded compliment lands because there's no nervous energy behind it. No craving. Just presence. Even more powerful is when you affirm something beyond her appearance. Most women are used to being complimented for their looks. That's surface level. But when you affirm something about her energy, her intellect, her values, or her essence, she feels seen. And when a woman feels seen without feeling hunted, she becomes curious. She starts wondering why you're different. Why you feel so refreshing. That's emotional gravity. That's how you become memorable, not just because of what you said, but because of what she felt when you said it. Affirmation, when done with emotional clarity and self-respect, doesn't lower your power, it amplifies it. It shows you're observant, emotionally tuned in, and strong enough to express what most men hold back. And that emotional boldness is attractive on a level that logic can't explain. It's a vibe. It's a feeling. And it lingers. Mystery plus subtle challenge creates psychological magnetism that pulls a woman in without her even realizing why. Attraction isn't always about what's obvious. It's often about what's just out of reach, what's not fully explained, and what keeps her guessing in the best way. Mystery ignites her imagination. Subtle challenge engages her spirit. When you blend both into the way you speak, move, and carry yourself, you create an emotional atmosphere she doesn't want to leave. Mystery doesn't mean being secretive or evasive. It means having layers. It's about revealing just enough to spark curiosity but leaving something to wonder about. It's the way you speak about your passions without explaining every detail. It's the way you make eye contact that says more than your words ever could. A man who is mysterious doesn't feel the need to constantly explain or impress. He's comfortable being partially unknown because he knows his value doesn't depend on full exposure. He trusts that his presence alone is enough to stir interest. Now combine that with a subtle challenge. Not arrogance. Not rudeness. But the kind of challenge that says, you'll enjoy me, but you'll have to earn that enjoyment. It's the energy of a man who doesn't just fall into someone's world, he invites others into his, but only if they show up with the right energy. When you offer a subtle challenge, you create contrast. You stand out from the men who overpursue, overplease, and overexplain. You send a message, I'm interested, but not impressed. I'm open, but not available to just anyone. For example, instead of saying, you're so beautiful, which she hears all the time, you say, you've got that look like you get away with too much. That's not just a compliment, it's a playful, subtle challenge wrapped in intrigue. It makes her smile, but it also makes her think. It draws her in, not because you gave her validation, but because you gave her a puzzle. That kind of interaction lingers. It sticks in her mind. It makes her want to figure you out. Women crave experiences, not explanations. When you speak and behave in ways that suggest there's more beneath the surface, more to discover, more to unfold, you invite her into a story instead of a sales pitch. And when that story includes the subtle challenge of earning your respect, your time, and your affection, you become someone she's not just attracted to but intrigued by. That intrigue keeps the connection alive. It keeps the energy charged. It keeps her coming back, not because you're chasing her, but because you become the chase. Psychological magnetism isn't about saying all the right things. It's about knowing how to stir emotion without forcing it. It's the art of presence, timing, tone, and just enough unpredictability to make her lean in. And when you master the blend of mystery and subtle challenge, you don't need to pursue attraction, it finds you. Because now, you're not just a man, you're an experience. So remember this, words aren't just sounds, they're experiences. The right phrase, said with presence, can bypass her logic and go straight to her emotions. It can spark curiosity, create tension, and leave a lasting impression. But it only works when it comes from a man who knows his worth, who speaks with certainty, and who leads with grounded energy, not need. You don't need to be perfect. You don't need to memorize lines. You just need to speak with intention, own your value, and let your words reflect the man you're becoming. Because when you do, you won't have to chase her attention, she'll be drawn to your presence. Not for what you say alone, but for how you make her feel. And that, more than anything else, is what makes a woman truly want you.